All right, it is 6 o'clock on. I just breathed in the mic a little loud. Sorry. It's 6 o'clock on October 20th, 2017, and you are listening to Pop Culture Water Cooler. We are here in the KXOU sound booth. I don't know if that's the name of it, but we'll call it that. I'm Kendall Watson, one of your hosts, and who are you gentlemen?
I'm Joshua Walquist.
I'm Eric Nepper.
And like we said, we are Pop Culture Water Cooler. We are a show about film, television, books, video games in this case this week. But we are all things pop culture. We are here for you guys, and hopefully you guys can give us some suggestions and be there for us. So how are you both doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah, doing all right. Finally get a chance to relax a little while.
Sure, and actually I want to take this time. Josh mentioned to me before our show. Josh, brag on yourself a little bit. What are you doing this week, man?
Well, Monday I'm going down to the SMPTE film festival in California, in Hollywood actually, and I'm going to be watching one of my films at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, how awesome is that?
Thank you.
That is awesome. And so what day are you leaving again?
I'm leaving Monday morning and coming back Monday night, so it's going to be a quick trip.
What?
Yeah.
He's going to be there and back, but that's exciting, though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let us know, please, more about that. Once you upload it somewhere. Is it already uploaded somewhere?
It's uploaded, but I had to set it to private for the festival, so.
Okay. All right, well, keep us updated. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, like I said, I kind of mentioned briefly before, we are Pop Culture Water Cooler today. Actually, our theme is going to be horror video games. We're taking a step back from theater and going into picking up the controller, going into video games. But before I do that, let me do my plugs. So, like I said, we are KXOU. You can actually listen through kxou.ou.edu, and also on the TuneIn app, search KXOU as well.
And if you are watching our recorded YouTube podcast, hello from the past.
Yes, we are now, we took a week off last week, but we are now on YouTube and SoundCloud. Both search Pop Culture Water Cooler. So now you guys can listen to our broadcast later on if you don't get to listen to us on Friday, because you got stuff you got to do.
Hi, future people.
Hi, future us.
That's how I have to listen to it.
Before we dive in to horror video games, as all three of us are video game fans and aficionados and all that kind of stuff, however you want to brag about yourself, let's do our weekly news. This is news mainly in the film world, but just news and stuff that kind of caught our eye that we wanted to pay attention to. So I will start us off. Let's see, what do we got first on the docket? Looks like, I jotted down, Ron Howard has officially announced the name of the standalone Han Solo prequel. I think this was maybe 2 days ago. It's officially called Solo, a Star Wars story, much like Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And just a little bit of background info. Ron Howard, if that's weird that you pair his name with that movie, he was not the original director or directors in this case. Originally, he actually took over in late June. It was going to be Phil Lord and Chris Miller of 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie, but they were kicked. They were kicked by producer Kathleen Kennedy. So now it's Ron Howard film, a Star Wars story, and it's slated for May 25th, 2018. You guys have any thoughts on all that?
I mean, I'm sort of excited to see it and sort of nervous to see it. I openly was not a super fan of the first movie of Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Yeah, the first standalone.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think that some fans might find that it ruins their favorite character from the series, but they might also do it well enough that nobody's going to think that. But
sure. Eric, did you have some thoughts? You were kind of looking like you did.
Yeah, well, I like Ron Howard. I really like the movie Rush. Have you guys seen that?
No.
I have not, but I know what you're talking about.
I'm a
with
big
Chris
fan.
Hemsworth.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Daniel Bruhl, I think, is the other guy.
And I think people have really been waiting for like a Han Solo story to kind of see like his past and like his dirty shady backdoor dealings and stuff. So.
Sure. Well, and also too, what got me excited was Donald Glover was cast as Lando Calrissian.
Yeah,
which is
that's
perfect.
pretty cool.
That definitely helps.
Yeah.
I think it seems like Disney is shaping up these Star Wars stories to be the place where they tell the, I don't know, somewhat darker tales of the Star Wars universe.
Sure.
What with Rogue One and now with a story of a smuggler, Han Solo is probably not going to be the most flower and roses story in the world. But
well, yeah, I mean, you're completely right. I mean, Rogue One was darker. I mean, everyone, I mean, I won't ruin it, but I mean, the ending was not happy. I mean, everybody, no one is around to talk about it. So
yeah.
we'll put it that way.
We at least know that Han Solo will survive the length of this movie.
Yeah, he's not on Alderaan.
That's true.
And Lando also will be surviving the movie.
So yeah, long story short, they've gone through a lot of, it's concerning. It's concerning initially to see lose a director, have troubles. Kathleen Kennedy, who is the very, very famous producer of the Star Wars movies and a lot of Spielberg stuff, just pretty much said she did not get along with the two original directors, which kind of shows some, butting of heads in the creative process.
Yep.
I hope it doesn't lose any of its fire. So.
Yeah, it depends on what you're in for. If you're in for these movies made by directors who have a vision for the story they've been hearing, it doesn't sound like Disney agrees with you. They want to... Yeah. They have a vision for the entire universe of Star Wars, and that, I think, is butting heads with the individual directors' visions at times, because they want to tell their own story, but it doesn't quite fit into the grand narrative that the Star Wars department is trying to tell.
Right. Well, it kind of suffers from that idea that like the James Bond movies have, and like in all these big franchises that you're right don't allow a lot of room for creativity. But yeah, so long story short, Ron Howard's taken over, and it's that was a couple months back, but Solo, a Star Wars story, May 25th, 2018. What do we have next on the news list?
Well, next on the list, we have that Netflix announced they plan on releasing 80 new movies in 2018. The announcement came from Chief Content Officer Ted...
I think it's Sarandos, I think is how you pronounce it.
Sarandos? Something like that.
Sarandos, yeah.
This will almost double the releases from 2017 and will cost about $7 to $8 billion in total.
Oh my god.
Okay, continue.
Oh no, I was just gonna say you talked about the total. Did you guys see? I can't remember the total in general, but did you see how much Netflix debt they've accrued?
Really?
Yeah, it was a big thing. I want to say about a month ago, and I can't remember the amount, but it was something that was like they are going to be in debt for a long time.
Oh yeah, I've been hearing a lot that just Netflix is not a very profitable company right now.
It's because they pay these so The Irishman, that Martin Scorsese film that's coming to Netflix, and all these like Netflix specific movies cost about $100 million to make, and they're just shelving out the cash to make them, and so they have all these investments that they're doing,
and they don't get the theater revenue from these movies.
Exactly, it's the streaming revenue, so it's long term. It's kind of a lot like that Movie Pass thing, where it's cheaper for you to have it than for them to pay for it, but eventually they will make their money back.
Hopefully.
Do you think it's better for them to make their own stuff, or to just sign on with like Showtime or HBO?
I mean, that's a good question. I'm a huge fan of Netflix original content.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys watch it, but like House of Cards, David Fincher's Mindhunter that just came out, fantastic. It's always solid stuff. Now, I will say for the movie side, I don't know too much with with Death Note and everything.
It really depends on what people want from Netflix, because a lot of people, when Netflix first started their online streaming, were wanting it to be the sort of hub for all the movies and TV shows that got released, kind of like Steam is for video games, a place where you can just go and find all the most popular things. And it was that for a little while, and now they're switching gear. And a lot of people don't like that they're switching this gear over to solely original content like HBO has been.
Sure, yeah, like I said, I'm just a huge fan of the content. But Eric, do you watch very much original Netflix things?
No, I actually hate them. I really don't like Netflix original content. Like Stranger Things, not my thing.
So why?
Wow. Okay. Speaking of Stranger Things, I just thought I'd mention. I'm surprised this isn't on the news. The new season comes out October 27th, next Friday.
It was on the news and I took it off.
Oh,
it's a good call. I can't wait. I love it. I love it.
Some people apparently could wait forever for it.
So real quick, we won't take too much time, but I just want to hear, Eric, you're painting with some pretty broad strokes, man. What makes you just hate every bit of
BoJack
Netflix?
Horseman, House of Cards.
Yeah, seriously, I just can't get into them.
Have you seen House of Cards before?
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, all right.
To each their
I
own.
don't know. Maybe it's just me trying to be like.
I will say, if you like David Fincher, watch his new show Mindhunter that just came out.
I'll give it a chance.
The TV show itself has spawned so many David Fincher YouTube videos.
Oh yeah. I think there was like a number 7 on YouTube trending yesterday or something that was about that hijacks your eyes video.
Yes.
My favorite Netflix thing, I will say, I'll take this back. What's it? Luke Cage.
Oh,
okay.
Luke Cage.
That's
I like
actually the
Luke
one
Cage
that
a
I
lot.
haven't. Well, to be honest,
I haven't seen any.
Iron Fist either. But
I haven't seen any
Iron
of the
Fist
Marvel
sucks, dude.
ones
Iron
on
Fist sucks.
Netflix.
Oh, it's so bad.
Okay. I like Daredevil though. At least the first season. The second season got
Yeah,
a little
agreed.
convoluted, but
Agreed.
cool. Okay, yeah. So Netflix, like Josh said, 80 new movies in 2018, $7 to $8 billion. That's nuts.
I think going back to what I was saying earlier, with some people getting mad at Netflix's decision to go away from streaming non-original content, is that people don't realize that what Netflix is becoming now is, instead of a Steam for movies, it's becoming its own TV channel but online. And this used to be something that people wanted a lot of, the ability to just buy one TV channel instead of a bunch on cable. And now that they're having that option, they're kind of realizing that's a lot pricier than they thought it would be.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, but they're in charge of production and distribution.
Yeah,
at the same
it's
time.
understandable the
Yeah.
cost. Netflix has to somehow make money.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and yeah, I mean, it's. Well, and I like the point that you said about it becoming its own channel. Like with Disney pulling, you see that Disney is pulling their
Yes.
content. They're going to have their own channel. You know, it's slowly. It was kind of like a doomsday article. I kind of joked reading it, but like I read this article that was like streaming is becoming like cable now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that if Netflix continues to push out these higher quality movies and TV shows, that they're going to have to start releasing some of the movies in theaters if they want revenue, because the old version of TV, cable or whatever, made its money by advertising and by some slightly cheaper produced content, but still fun, like sitcoms and whatnot. And Netflix is trying to have its cake and eat it too, with little advertising and high quality original content, and they've got to find a way to balance it.
Well, if you look at Hulu, they have options for commercials. They have like Hulu originals, and they're good, and they have all that other stuff like with like Showtime and stuff. They're just knocking it out of the park. Like, what's the difference?
Well,
here?
and not only that, but Hulu with Spotify and coming
yes,
HBO.
I know.
That's huge.
That is massive.
Disclaimer: we are not sponsored by any
Yeah,
of
we're not.
these,
Sorry,
so
we're not sponsored. Yeah, but
Hulu,
but
please
yeah,
give us
that's.
money.
I mean, you're right though. They're making themselves. They're putting their foot in the ground and saying like, no, we belong in the race.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Like I'd mentioned though, they are making a Martin Scorsese, film for Netflix, The Irishman. So I'm excited for stuff like that.
That's cool.
But hopefully it's good content.
Yeah.
So
we'll see how long they can keep it up.
yeah. All right, what do we got for last on the news today?
All right. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences members have reportedly voted unanimously to expel Harvey Weinstein from their membership following dozens of allegations of sexual harassment. Members include Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, and Kathleen Kennedy.
So I was kind of hesitant to put this on the news because this is such a darker subject.
Touchy.
It is dark,
Yeah.
touchy,
Um,
and very prevalent right now.
Yeah, it's huge though. That's why I decided to put it on there. I mean, we won't, obviously go into any type of detail, doesn't belong on the radio, but I mean, you're right. This was huge. I mean, his name is everywhere. And I don't know if you saw this too. He was actually let go from his own company, which I mean, he's going to be, wiping his tears with his money anyway. So he's going to be fine, but he's still, that's crazy that not only was he let go of the Academy, but also from his company. I mean, that, and you know what the problem is too? I'll get off my soapbox, but this has been circulating for years, not just Harvey. This has been a
Yes.
problem, and it's going to be a problem until...
I am really afraid that with everything coming out about Harvey Weinstein, people will take this and be like, wow, Hollywood is changing for the better, and then Hollywood doesn't have to change anymore, besides for kicking out Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Right, the one slap
'Cause
on the hand.
You
Yeah.
know he's not the only one.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, and I mean, the rumor's been around for years.
Yeah.
So, it's a shame that it happened to the poor actors and actresses, because I don't know if you saw this, not just with Harvey, but I mean there are actors coming out.
Yes.
There are male actors coming out that said that there's this happening to them too. And actually, I don't know if you saw this, but Terry Crews, his was really, really interesting. And he just seems like a great person in general, but I really found his interesting. And then more male actors. So I mean, this isn't just a isolated event. This is something that's going on, but it's something that's very prevalent in the news. So,
Wait, are you saying males are... Wait, what?
no, I'm just saying that because mainly you hear a lot about actresses, but I'm saying this is happening more than just these isolated incidents. This is a widespread thing.
To male and female. Is
Male
what
and
you're saying.
female,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
I was
Sorry
just trying
if
to
I was.
understand.
No, I mean so they're saying that these casting couches in Hollywood, they exist, and it's not just this one Harvey Weinstein thing. This is a problem. So hopefully they find some way to deal with this beyond just a slap on the hand. So. But to hop off a touchy subject like that, I did want to point out I've been talking about it for a while, but we have our first request for content, guys. Holy
Woo!
cow! Clapping in the background. Our first request for content, which is great. I jumped at this, and I know Josh was kind of rolling his eyes, but I fought for it. But no, we got a request to take a look at the new Star Wars trailer that dropped. I want to say last week.
Yeah, a week ago.
Clickbait alert.
Yeah. And we are not sponsored by YouTube, but it's on YouTube. The last Jedi Star Wars trailer that dropped. It was awesome. We actually just watched it again before the show to kind of catch up. But the request is sent to us by Kylie M. I'll leave her last name off there for privacy reasons. But you can just go on our Facebook and see her name anyway. So. But no, she requested that we take a look at this, and we just watched it. Guys, first impressions, what did you think of this new Star Wars trailer?
I thought it was really sweet looking. Like, it looked awesome. But that's how I felt about the first one. And then when I saw the movie, I was like, wow, this trailer was better than the movie. And I was like, so I'm really concerned. Like, I want the movie to be good. Like, don't get me wrong, but sure. I'm cautious.
I liked the trailer, and unlike Eric here, I actually didn't watch any trailers, see anything before I saw the first movie.
That's impressive.
So, yeah,
everywhere.
I was purposely avoiding them because I wanted to go in with as fresh an experience as possible without any spoilers. And I do feel like watching this trailer this time, I might have had some spoilers for the upcoming movie. Might as well talk about it right now. A little bit of a spoiler. Carrie Fisher is going to die in the movie.
It implied it. I will say it didn't. It didn't guarantee it. But
if she doesn't, then I'm just going to be mad at whoever cut the trailer.
Yeah, that's fair. What he's referring to is you're talking about the shot where it's Kylo in his ship.
There's like 5 shots in a row. Kylo going up, and then an opposite shot of Carrie Fisher looking worried. And Kylo saying, pull the trigger, and then that's it.
Yeah, I would say it definitely hints towards her dying. I can't remember what the line was, but it was along the lines of like him telling himself he has to do it, whatever it is, you know, implying that it's killing his mom like he killed his dad in the first one. So,
how many of the original cast do you think are going to be alive by the end of the trilogy?
I think one. I think they would leave Luke alive, but I could be completely wrong.
So Chewbacca's gone.
Oh, yeah. Chewbacca's half CGI anyways. He doesn't count as an original. He's more of an idea than an actual person.
I mean, honestly, I think they're going to kill Luke off eventually, but that's just me. I think he's going to sacrifice himself or something. They're going to pull some emotional heartstrings. Now, they have the chord, so why don't they play it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's
something
true.
Like that.
What did you guys think of the... So if you remember in the first trailer for The Last Jedi, it showed Finn like in a capsule that was being raced to, it implied like his well-being. Like he was in a capsule and they were racing him, and it was like, oh, get there and save Finn somehow, like in the first trailer. And then this one, it actually shows him up fighting Captain Phasma, who was his, officer. In the first one, I think is what it was.
Yeah, that's actually something too we'll come back to later, but continue. Captain Phasma, that is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but what did you guys think of, the first trailer was trying to be like, he's okay maybe? And this trailer was like, yeah, he's fine. Like, which he's also using the, the baton, the electric baton from the first one too.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knew he was going to make it through it. I do remember seeing the trailers after I saw the movie. It kind of made everyone think that he was going to be one of the Jedi in the movie because they showed that one shot of him lighting up the lightsaber or whatever. And I don't think they're trying to fool us this time into thinking the same thing. But
yeah, did you guys actually... Like, don't get me wrong, I overall enjoyed the first film, but I found that kind of weird that they really did. I mean, they didn't even hint at it. They put the lightsaber in his hands.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you guys think they did that? I just don't see, at least in my mind, any reason why they did that.
I think it's to throw people off.
Okay. You literally think they just wanted to, like, for about 30 minutes, just be like, maybe he's the Jedi.
Yeah, maybe he's the new Jedi. Like, lead male. Like, oh, no, lead female.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm trying to think of anything else from the trailer. Oh, so also in the trailer, so there's a monologue of Snoke pretty much saying, like, come to my... Oh, so backstory. I should say this before I go to it. Luke sees implied Rey's ability and is scared by it and does not want to take her on as a student because He took on Kylo, and Kylo, killed all the people, whoever they are. I think they were like his other students. I think is what it was.
I think like literally every other Jedi.
Yeah. So he's afraid to take on Rey, and then we see in the trailer Snoke possibly talking to Rey about coming to his side. So do you guys think there's this possible distancing of like Luke and Rey? Like he's saying you're too powerful, because he does say that. He's like, I haven't seen this power in a long time, and now I'm scared. Do you think he's gonna be like, I'm not gonna teach you, so she goes elsewhere, or do you think that's just the trailer implying it?
No. I mean, I think he is. I think he's going to do that initially, but then she's going to come back. Because, I think it kind of mirrors Anakin's, like, story, Like, oh, come to the... Or even Luke's story, to an extent.
What's that Lucas quote? It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah.
Is that really what
George
Lucas said?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, it makes sense.
Okay.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. But, yeah, it just mirrors, like, Anakin's story and Luke's story. So, and, I mean, judging from the first one, how similar it was to, A New Hope, like, I imagine it's just going to be like, oh, she's like struggling between light and dark. Oh, she's going to go light. It's fine.
I could very much see them purposely playing on that expectation in the trailer.
Yeah, I can see that too, actually.
They could be just trying to fool us into thinking, might be a little bit of optimism on my side, but they could be trying to fool us into thinking it's going to be like episode 5.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. Well, and Rian Johnson, the writer-director, he did say, not that it was going to be like Empire Strikes Back, but it was going to be darker.
Yeah.
So, maybe that was kind of what he's talking about. But, okay. Well, right on.
I would, if she went over to the dark side and became the bad guy, I would give them huge props.
And you know what? And I think, because that implies, too, that Kylo would switch. Because there's at one point where I didn't take it as him becoming good, but he did reach out his hand to her. I'm assuming what it is actually is that he is representing the dark side, and he's like, hey, come join the dark side.
What if she goes to the dark side? What I think is going to happen is it's going to be Rey and Kylo versus Finn. Finn's going to come back as the person who has to save,
or at least. Do you mean as far as save, like emotionally save, like convince Rey to? Ooh, that'd
Finn
be cool.
has to take on the role of the Jedi.
That'd be really
Luke
cool.
decides to train Finn instead, and then
or just like and maybe somehow Finn and Poe Dameron like work together to win Rey back. Although I don't know if did Poe ever meet Rey. I don't think Poe and Rey have met.
I thought they met. I don't remember. I'll need to rewatch the first movie before I go back.
Yeah, same here. So we'll wrap it up, though, for time. But Kylie, thank you so much for your suggestion. Like I said, we want this show to be something that you guys can say, hey, take a look at this, and we'll make really bad assumptions at it. So
yes.
We'll project everything.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your suggestion. If you guys have any suggestions ever over a trailer, over a show, feel free to find us, like I said, on our Facebook and Twitter at PopCultureWC, actually, is our handle, at PopCultureWC.
Or comment on our YouTube videos. We're watching those as well.
And SoundCloud as well. Search both of those, Pop Culture Water Cooler. All right, so today's topic, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a catchphrase, but we decided to step away from the theater and pick up a controller. I know not everybody that listens is a gamer, but we are. So
well, 2 of us are.
Yeah. But we really wanted to take this opportunity to not be just a film show. We really wanted to explore an avenue, especially for those who aren't educated in it, who might be interested, who might care less. I mean, it's something that we enjoy that is pop culture, and it's perfect for the month of October. We wanted to kind of dive in. So just kind of an overview before we actually hop into our picks for our favorite horror games and why we like them. I mean, like I said, the horror genre it's been around. The gaming genre has been around for a long time. I mean, before console games. I mean, it was computer games. I mean, there was written text games. It's nothing new. But why? I mean, you guys don't have to go super philosophical, but why do you guys think it's important nowadays, or at least in general to you guys?
Video
games or horror?
The horror genre in video games.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think it's awesome because, I mean, you're playing in a first-person perspective. I mean, not necessarily like first-person as the game, but like you are the character, and like you get scared. You are the one who is vulnerable. Like, and your actions reflect your actions reflect the consequences that occur in the game. So I think it's a perfect place for horror.
And building off that a little bit, horror is one of what film theorists like to call the body genres.
Oh yeah.
A genre of movies in which, a genre in general in which your body is meant to physically replicate the emotions and the shuddering of the on-screen characters. And horror films the successful ones at least cause you to do that. And horror video games take it a step further. Video games in general often allow the on-screen avatar and the on-screen character to become a extension of yourself, an extension of your body, almost as if you were controlling a third arm or something. And so applying that body genre of horror to something that you consider a part of yourself just makes it all the more scary and effective and dramatic.
Yeah, definitely. When speaking of like dramatic, at least I put for my reasoning of why it's important is that it's not just the jump scares. It's not just the horror that makes it important, especially in horror video games. I kind of put some examples like there's a lot of horror games that can actually grasp and hold on to a dramatic narrative. Like, instead of just having
That's
a
very
spooky
true,
guy
yeah.
through the hallway. There are games that, like I put, for instance, like Evil Within, which is kind of a more newer game, but the Resident Evil series and Silent Hill, like a lot of these games are mysteries, and they force you to confront these things to solve these clues in scary situations. So it's not, I mean, you literally have to progress the game. You have to go into that hallway that there's a monster down there.
There's that exploration element too. Like, in order to progress, you have to get past whatever is about to scare you.
Yeah.
Like it forces you to like explore the environment.
Yeah, there's a common thing in horror games in which you have a safe zone, and that safe zone gets you nowhere. You can't do anything but exist in that safe zone. In order to continue your experience, you have to
get uncomfortable.
You have to step outside of it.
And more often than not, in that safe zone, you can save your progress to where you step away, you come back, you can play. But like in the first Resident Evil game, you don't get these unlimited save. You can't just keep saving, and it's like you really have to take into account. I have 2 hours before work. I'm not going to play this. It's like because you can't just set this game down. I mean, it really kind of psychologically makes you prioritize even the game playing. I mean, it takes you out of that game and makes you prioritize how you do it. So like I put dramatic narratives. I also put leisure games, like games that don't have narratives, but like Left 4 Dead. Like Left 4 Dead, for those who don't know, is a game where you play with 4 of your friends or 3 computers in you, but it's just a zombie shooter game. All you do is just shoot zombies. There's a little bit of like lore to it, but it's really it's just get from point A to point B as a friend group. You're gonna have a lot of zombies running at you and just survive.
It's a really fun game.
Yeah, I love that game. But yeah, so there's games like that are horror games that aren't necessarily scary. They can be stressful and scary, but they're the same, elements of zombie and, this horror genre. And then lastly, I also put, I phrased it as media crossing spectacles, and I'll kind of explain what that means, what I meant by it. But like Until Dawn, which is a more recent game, but it's a game that operates like a TV or movie. It's episodic. It's your characters make decisions, and whatever you're running down a hill and you have to go left or right, and depending on which way you go affects the end of that episode. Someone will die, because you went right instead of left.
Have you ever like screamed at a character in a horror film like, "Don't go in there"? Like that's what Until Dawn is. You can make that decision to not go in there.
Right. Yeah. And so every action, and so it's kind of this taking out a game, but also taking in these, like I said, episodic narratives that happen and the consequences. So it's kind of like this media crossing, blurring the lines type thing. So these horror genres, I mean, and you guys probably might think of other examples as well, but these horror genres are not just limited to jump scares.
Yeah.
That's very true, yeah.
Ambient horror.
Sure. And before we dive in, this was just kind of a fun question I thought of, but are there any games that you, to this day, or when you were a kid, played that you can't play, that freaked you out too much? Any off the top of your head? No?
No,
Wow, it's impressive. No, I mean,
you'll find out shortly when we get to my list of games that I have not played a very large amount of horror games, maybe 1 or 2 at the most, throughout my life. So there aren't really any from my childhood that I was like, those scarred me for life.
Silent Hill scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I played through it later.
Well, they're still weird.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I will say for mine at least, it's more of a modern one, but so my girlfriend and I will try to play like Outlast or something, and we're just babies. I mean, we can't.
Scary,
I mean, that's one of those games. For those who don't know, it's a first-person game. You're in an insane asylum with murderous, insane people running around, and so it's like you have to go down that hallway, even though there's a murderer in that room. And it's like, I mean, you have to push forward in a first-person perspective. Yeah, it's terrifying.
I mean, one of my favorite moments. An example of this is in PT, if you guys have played PT.
Which, PT, kind of explain what that is real quick.
I mean, it's on my list, so
okay, well, yeah,
we'll talk about it later.
Okay. What were you going to say about PT
Okay,
real quick?
yeah, but anyway, yeah. So there's a moment in PT where, you're walking around and you notice a door open, and that's like the only way to progress is to look through this cracked door, and it's forcing you to, like, you feel so uncomfortable. You really don't want to do this at all, but it's the only way to progress. And I think it's like, and something happens when you do it, and I think it's a great example of just like forcing the player to be uncomfortable in order to get through it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is terrifying. So like I'd kind of mentioned previously before, that was the overview, but what we've kind of been doing every week with whatever our theme is, but we picked our top 3 examples of horror games that we think are effective or that we love or that, we have to play with the lights on. I mean, it's something that sticks with us when we think of horror games and why they're worthwhile. So we can just go one at a time. Does anybody want to
good.
start? Eric, do you want to start us off?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
Cool.
My first pick was Alien Isolation.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was made in 2014 by a studio called Creative Assembly, and the director is Alastair Hope. And basically the premise is 15 years after Alien, Ripley's daughter Amanda is trying to find her mother after the events of the movie. And it's a first-person game. It has like the environmental. I mean, it's more of a linear horror game, but basically like you're going through this linear story, exploring the environment, but there are xenomorphs and androids coming after you. So it's in the set design is really, really good. I mean, not set design, but environmental design. It looks a lot like the Nostromo, and it's just like it's a lot of fan service. Like if you like Alien, you will love this game because it's the point of it is to immerse yourself in this world, and it's really good. Like the xenomorph is really intelligent. He'll pop out anywhere. He'll crawl through like vents and stuff, and it's pretty frightening.
Well, and that's super important. I'll let you kind of explain it, but like so in video games, a lot for those who don't play a lot of video games, a lot of things are scripted or staged. You see a shadow at the end of the door, someone's going to hop out at you.
Yeah.
But with Alien, so Eric kind of explained like this xenomorph is really, it's like the first time this has ever been done. It's not scripted.
Yeah.
It's a roaming agent.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of the reasons PT was so good. I mean, I'm gonna keep talking about PT because it's just so freaking good.
Yeah.
But the xenomorph, like, you have these AI that can read what you're doing, and they can adapt to that and notice patterns and then scare you in ways that you don't expect. And it's different every time you play through. So it's its own entity. It's not just like you don't step over some invisible tripwire and it scares you. Like it is a thing that's like trying to scare you. And and a lot of new horror games are doing that type of thing, and I think it's really, really interesting, and it adds a lot to it.
Well, and I'll even go as far as to say Alien Isolation, the alien, the way it acts when it roams, it doesn't want you to win. It purposefully tries to make it to where you can't win.
Yeah.
Or complete the game, or however you want to look at it. But I mean, you are constantly under fire, per se, from this alien. I mean, you're constantly on your radar. You will see him. He never leaves your vicinity.
Yeah.
I think for a little bit in the game for story.
Well, you don't see him for a while is the thing. You don't see him for a while. But then when he comes around, it's like, oh gosh, he's here. And you will do things that you'll avoid him some ways early on, and then you'll try it again later, and it won't work. Like he'll find you.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
And also too, the game relies a lot off of, you don't use weapons, you can't kill the alien, per se. You have to use sound making devices. You literally, the only way to get past the alien is to lure it away from you.
Yeah, I mean, you have flamethrowers to deter
right,
it
but
eventually.
Yeah, eventually. Well, and even then, it comes back.
Yeah, it'll come back,
within a minute. It literally just scares it off. So it's terrifying. It forces you to deal with this constant pressure.
Yeah.
I think it's a great pick. Anything else you wanted to say about it?
Yeah, if you like Alien, you really need to play this game. It's probably real cheap right now.
Yeah, it's been out for a little bit. I know they did release a DLC or downloadable content, extra content for those not aware.
It's not worth it.
Well, did you see what it was though? Did you see?
Yeah, I saw what it was.
You play
I played
as
through
Ellen
it.
Ripley.
Yeah, I played through it.
I think that's kind of cool. I don't know, but it's the events of the first movie, so that's kind of cool. I think it's a cool idea, but yeah, Alien Isolation I think is a fantastic pick. What did you have for yours, Josh?
Okay, well, this first game I have on my list is really the only horror movie or horror game on my list, because as I was saying earlier, I just haven't played a whole lot. But that'll allow us to get a little bit more variety than just the top 10 horror video games. But as for a video game that will be on that list, Bloodborne, was released in 2013 by Sony Computer Entertainment for the PlayStation 4, and is still, I believe, exclusive only to the PlayStation 4. So if you want to play it, you gotta go back a console.
Go get that PS4, man.
It's current.
It's
Still a current console.
Yeah.
Okay,
Get rid
well.
of that Xbox. Go get a PS4.
But yeah, anyway, Bloodborne is a game that creates this eerie, morbid environment. It is a very Lovecraftian, almost steampunk kind of game, and it relies on a genre of horror that I haven't seen in a whole lot of video games that I've heard called cosmic horror. It's a genre of horror where basically the idea is the less that you know, the happier you can be. Yeah. Because the more you know about the world around you, the more you realize that everything is going to trash, basically.
Yeah. So, real quick, for people who don't know what it is, what type of gameplay? Like, so is it...
So, it's a
third person, right?
Yeah, it's third person. Sort of like a slasher game where you play as a character with some kind of sword or sharp object, and you slash apart a bunch of monsters as you explore this open world and discover the mysteries and whatnot. One thing Bloodborne does well that games by its creator have also done well, the Souls games, is that it tells the story via item descriptions and background detail and allows the character to immerse themselves in the story just as much as they want to. Yeah. They don't really need to immerse themselves in order to get the full experience out of the game, but they can if they want that extra context and whatnot.
It kind of takes some work to get to the story. Like,
the
story is in the secrets in the game.
Yes.
So it's like you got to play through it a couple times to really get everything in one run.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can't stress that enough. I mean, for Souls games, anybody who's played them, Bloodborne, it really, I mean, it doesn't tell you anything. You literally just, your character wakes up and it says go.
And that's kind of the point. Like you mentioned to me earlier about how it's like existential horror.
Yes.
And it's like it just throws you in this existence as this character, and you have to figure out what to do.
And that's part of what makes it so scary is your lack of understanding at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you think that lack of understanding is the scariest you'll get, and as you discover more about the world, it'll become less scary and easier to handle. But in fact, as you and your character discover more about the world around you, there will be scarier and stronger monsters everywhere in the game.
Oh yeah. And real quick, I want to mention you said Lovecraftian. Thank you for that. I love that. What did you mean by that? Just for people who don't know.
Well, just
what are you referring to?
Well, cosmic horror is something that Lovecraft used in most of his stories in general.
Right. Who's Lovecraft?
Well, H.P. Lovecraft,
the
author.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I should have been more direct. Yeah.
That's all right. But he's known for a lot of his bizarre monsters. Cthulhu, I think, is one of his creations, and monsters like that are so bizarre that they're hard to classify as any one.
They're like gods.
Creature.
Yeah. They're gods. They're older than the earth, and so Cthulhu, like the stories about him, it's like. He's asleep, he comes back to life, or he wakes up every couple of thousand years. And when he does, he's so powerful that everybody weak-minded, quote unquote, in the world go crazy by him just coming back. So it's kind of like, you're right, it's this cosmic, it's this psychological, just, he doesn't necessarily eat you, he just, like, you look at him and you just lose your mind.
You just go insane.
Yeah. And that's something, basically the story of Bloodborne is that you are what they call a hunter running around and killing these zombie-esque monsters that the town people have turned into. And as you go through the story, you realize that the hierarchy of the town puts this on every year to get hunters to come and kill the gods of their world that are trying to come in and reset humanity or something like that. One of the themes in this cosmic horror genre that you mentioned a little bit with the Cthulhu tale is this theme of repetition and circular history, something that what is going to happen is inevitable, and all you can do is prolong the inevitable. And that's part of the horror of the game, is when you understand the story, no matter which ending you choose to have, or get to have in some cases, you are not affecting the world for long.
It's interesting that you say that because Hidetaka Miyazaki's like #1 influence for the Souls games is the anime Berserk,
Right.
and that is a huge element of Berserk. Is that like these gods come around every so often, and like they just wreak havoc on these people. Yeah,
That's kind of the idea that you learn all this stuff in the game, and one of the endings, actually, a little bit of a spoiler alert, is that your character forgets what happened during the day and can wake up as a normal person now. And that's probably one of the more horrific endings, because your character may have survived, he may still now be a normal human, but now you as the player know that your character is going to go about life in this society unaware of the monsters that are literally everywhere around him, because he just doesn't know about them.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I am only halfway through Berserk, so...
Oh, dang, dude. Crap.
Always
Sorry.
call
Spoilers.
spoilers.
You're good. To be fair, I've been like halfway through for like a year, so okay.
I mean, didn't give away much.
No,
So just,
I'm giving you a hard time.
No, but yeah, that's the kind of horror that your actions don't have a permanent effect, and humanity is doomed, and we are just a small piece of the picture.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal of this existential cosmic horror, to make you feel small and insignificant.
Yeah.
I will say, just to kind of touch on yours, I love that game, and I love that you chose that game. that game is,
I almost chose like a Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
they're fantastic. For those unaware, they're very rewarding for being hard.
Yes.
They're very, very tough games,
Tough
though.
as nails.
Yeah, but they're designed that way. They're designed that way to be tough, but they're very rewarding when you finally reach that point. My girlfriend does not understand why I play them.
I mean, it's like life. There's no meaning and it's hard.
Yeah.
Last year is when I started playing the Dark Soul games, and my roommates would just sit there watching me die, like time after time to the same boss, and they'd just be like,
What are you doing?
well.
Yeah.
Anyway, onward.
All right, so for mine, I kind of went, it's still in a horror aspect, but I chose, it's actually my favorite game of all time, but The Last of Us. I chose for one of my top 3 because it's very, very different. And people who don't follow it, you'll kind of equate it to like The Walking Dead in your mind, but it's Last of Us came out June 14, 2013, so I can't believe it's been over 4 years. It's almost 5 years old. That's crazy. Developed by the company Naughty Dog, the people who did Uncharted series and Crash Bandicoot, for those aware. But the synopsis is in a hostile post-pandemic world, Joel and Ellie, brought together by desperate circumstances, must rely on each other to survive a brutal journey across what remains of the United States. Taken from IMDb. It's a game. It's what's really special about it, and I always say this to people who don't know it. It's a zombie game, not about zombies. It's a game that takes place. I won't tell you anything about the story because it's very important to the story. As far as playing, it's very immersive. But it's a game that takes place. The world. It's 20 years into this zombie outbreak. They kind of do zombies differently. Instead of like flesh brain eaters, it's kind of this spore that gets from this fungus, and then it just kind of eats away at you, and you become like a zombie that's rabid. But it's a game that takes place in a zombie world, but is not about fighting these zombies. It's about finding a cure for when you get bitten, and I won't go into it any more than that. But the monsters, there are literal zombies in it that are the monsters. But the reason I picked it is because the monsters are more humanity, and I think it makes that argument too.
Yeah.
What people are willing to do to each other, because it is this, post-governance world. This, there's no structure that, you'll get shot for having a piece of food that somebody else wants. And so
I think it's more about because like the cordyceps fungi, like the zombies, I think it's more about like nature taking the earth back.
I
and
think,
like humans are the enemies. Humans are the real evil there.
Yeah, I think that same with movies and video games nowadays. Zombies have become so used up over and over again that we're at the point where they are less scary than they originally were when Night of the Living Dead came out, or movies and games like that. And so people use zombies as a backdrop to portray human conflict nowadays. Especially, you can see that with The Walking Dead as well, a lot of the time, at least in the earlier seasons.
But just for time's sake, because we only have about 15 minutes left and I want to get through ours, I'll leave it kind of short. But Last of Us, humans are the kind of monsters, and it's kind of a tale about what humans are willing to do to each other, both good and bad. and I just think it fits very well into the horror genre in a way. So, Eric, what do you got next?
All right, one of my favorites in the horror genre, RE7, Resident Evil 7. It was made in 2017 by Capcom. And directed by Koichi Nakanishi.
I hope you're going to explain the first 6 for those of us who haven't played any of them.
I mean, this is almost kind of a reboot because it differs from the first 6 in the sense that it's a first-person game, and it takes the tropes of the first game more, and it's in the sense that it's like it takes place in a house, like the first one, and you just discover the secrets of this house in order to like progress in the game, and you discover like the secrets of why these things are going on. But anyway. The kind of a plot synopsis is Ethan Winters visits a mansion he believes houses his missing wife, Mia. He quickly discovers the inhabitants of said mansion are expecting him and must find his wife and get out alive. So that's like the basis of Resident Evil 7. Yeah, it's a first-person game. It's really ambient. The horror is really ambient. Like the environment is really what makes the game good. It's about like learning this environment and getting a connection to it to a point, like growing a connection with the environment to a point where it's like another character. Like the mansion is a character itself. Yeah, and it's a very exploration heavy game. Like you have to find these things yourself, like keys and stuff to open doors in order to progress. And there's a lot of like it's very like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this one, and then it flowers out into other things that are even more interesting. Yeah. So it's really good.
I've heard that the Resident Evil series is known for expressing internal conflict as external monsters.
That's an interesting way. I didn't think about that. But thinking back through at least Resident Evil 7, I can kind of see that. As far as that's
Am I thinking of a different series?
I'm just trying to, like, I would believe it, but I'm just trying to, like, make sense.
Real quick before we move off of it, did you play it in VR?
No, I really want to so bad.
Yeah, it would be terrifying.
It would be
Again,
so
it's
fun.
first person, you can play it in virtual reality, and
Oh, that would be awful.
I remember when I first talked to you about this, you said it was a snooze fest.
Wow.
Did I say it was a snooze
Yes,
fest?
you did.
That
Those were your
sound
words.
like me. All right,
Stepping back on his opinion for the radio.
Yeah, that's true. I watched a playthrough, and I really enjoyed it. But, Josh, what do you got for us next?
Well, moving away from horror designed to scare you, I'm going to go to a game that I would consider more in somewhat of a grotesque horror sense. It's an indie game. I'll just read off the Google description. The Binding of Isaac. It's an indie game designed by Edmund McMillan and Florian Himsel, initially released in 2011. It's a computer game. It's on Steam still, so you can download it for pretty cheap. And basically the idea is you play as a child whose mother has gotten in her head to try to kill you. Kind of like the biblical tale back in the Old Testament where the father was...
Abraham kills the son, yeah.
Father was told by God to go kill his son. And so it kind of takes a little bit of biblical imagery and twists it for its own uses and whatnot. But The Binding of Isaac is all about the sense of disgust. The environments are all very cartoony, yet disgusting. There's poop everywhere. The monsters are all these grotesque, mutated, childlike creatures. And you play as a small child who shoots people with his tears.
For those who haven't seen it, it's actually, even if you don't like the game, it's just interesting to watch.
Yeah, the gameplay is roguelike, so basically it's you play as this character and your stats are reset every time you die, and the world is randomized every time you die.
Procedurally generated.
Yeah. And so it has a lot of replayability, so there are a lot of Let's Players and streamers who love to go to it to play a lot. And I enjoy playing it a lot. You go through and you try. It's kind of a completionist game, you know. You go through and try to collect every item throughout your multiple playthroughs. And it's not really scary, but it is definitely a game that you play and don't really want anyone watching over your shoulder who's not familiar with the game.
Sure. Well, I think it kind of falls into that like when I talk about like Left 4 Dead, like that leisure horror.
Yes, it's a game meant to just have some fun and maybe weird you out a little bit.
I really like the power-ups, how they like kind of turn you into these just disgustingly horrifying things, like a Cronenberg film or something.
If you really think about it, throughout the game you get items that give your tiers these special abilities, and they not only give you the abilities, but change your character avatar a little bit. And it's a little frightening thinking about you going through this world and becoming different in order to survive. And there's a lot of horrific elements that are downplayed by the cartoony nature of the game.
Cool. Well, right on. Binding of Isaac. I like that choice. I'll kind of speed up because we got about 9 minutes to get through 4 more picks. So we'll do a speed round of this, guys.
Okay.
But my number 2, so I'll make it quick, is Alan Wake. It was for the Xbox 360 and PC. Came out in May 18th, 2010. Synopsis: while on vacation in a small town of Bright Falls, a struggling writer must investigate in the mysterious disappearance of his wife. While events from his latest manuscript, which he can't remember writing, become true. So this game, I'll keep it short. It's a third-person game. You have a gun, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. You have a flashlight, which is your safe haven. It relies off of flashlights. Flashlight relies off of batteries. You rely off the flashlight. It relies off of batteries that run out. They drain. You have to find more of them to stay alive, to kill these shadow people that start coming after you. You are very exposed. You're very weak. You can't take care of yourself, and you have to push through this very Stephen King tale that takes place in like Washington State with all these trees, and it's very open and backwoods, and it's just a really cool feeling. It's like it'll get dark all of a sudden, like when it was sunny. It just is very like psychological horror wrapped in with this survival. So again, this reliance on this flashlight and the fact that you can not have the flashlight in the entire game, you don't have batteries, is terrifying. So Alan Wake is my second pick. All right.
Good pick.
Okay.
What do you got, Eric?
All right, my third pick is PT, man. This game is the best horror game never made. It's a psychological horror. It was going to be a game. Hideo Kojima, the creator of the director of the Metal Gear Solid series, amazing, and Guillermo del Toro, stealth dropped this as a demo during E3 2014 under the fake developer Moby Dick. And so upon completion of the demo, you find out that it's Konami who's making this, and it's Hideo Kojima and Guillermo. Norman Reedus starring, and it is a Silent Hill reboot. So people were freaking out about this. It was amazing. And basically, the gameplay is first person. The demo took place in the same hallway where you would just pretty much repeat the same hallway over and over again with different things happening.
Oh, walking through the hallway.
Walking through the hallway. It kind of reminded me of like just this insane behavior where like you would like walk through again and again and again, expecting not expecting any change, but it would happen. So it's like that kind of reverse insanity. And then like there's this like simple underlying murder story where like the father kills the family and all that jazz, and the ghost of the mother is stalking you from all angles. It's like that dynamic AI that we were talking about with Alien Isolation. It's the best version of that you've ever seen. Like this ghost will I would play this game at night and just scream my head off whenever like, these jump scares would happen. It is the scariest piece of media I've ever experienced. But anyway, that's PT in a nutshell. It's really good. Best game never made.
And you can't find it anymore. So they took it off the PlayStation Network. YouTube it. They're actually, and I don't know if you guys saw this, you can buy a PlayStation with it on there for hundreds of dollars. Because what they did is when they took it off, you used to be able to re-download your games if you didn't have them, but now you can't re-download it. So long story short, you can't get it anywhere. Look it up on YouTube. PT is incredible.
Yeah. Konami, fired Kojima, so it's not happening anymore. Shame.
All right, Josh, what do you got for your last pick?
Okay, real quick, I'll just go with the name of it and a little bit about it. The Stanley Parable. It isn't really a horror game, hardly a thriller game, but it really creates this environment of loneliness and separation from the world around you, and it is a really disturbing game. It really gets you thinking about life and the world in general, and it is an amazing game that I'd recommend playing. It's basically just about you are in this office, and you have to go grab something from another cubicle, and then all of a sudden no one's in the office, and you just repeat that scenario over and over again, just slightly different each time, and it's bizarre and weird and wonderful.
So that's actually been on my watch. I know it's super old, which is kind of funny, but it's been on my watch list.
Also from 2011.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So and when you read descriptions about it, it kind of is very vague and doesn't tell you much. So I will have to look it up.
Yeah, part of it is experiencing what goes on. But anyway.
Cool. All right. So for my last pick, I'll keep it short. This might be a little confusing to people who are fans of this creator's work, but I chose Evil Within instead of a Resident Evil game. Not that I don't like Resident Evil, but Evil Within was one of the first games in that same genre, and I'll tell you why they're kind of the same, that I actually played through and kind of sat through and actually was able to get through all the way. But it's Evil Within came out October 14, 2014, developed by Tango Gameworks. It was their first game. But why it's tied into Resident Evil is it was made by the Resident Evil series creator Shinji Mikami.
Praise him.
Yeah. so it was kind of his brainchild outside from Resident Evil. So it's very similar to the Resident Evil style of the survival horror. But it's a really awesome game. It's super creepy. It deals a lot with insanity and visions. You'll just be walking down a hallway, you'll get halfway through it, and all of a sudden the walls will have faces on them or eyes. Or, it's one of those things that you feel your character's going insane, but you feel insane because you have to experience it.
The second one just came out.
It did just come out. Synopsis of it real quick. While investigating the scene of a gruesome mass murder, Detective Sebastian Castellanos encounters a mysterious and powerful force and is knocked unconscious. When he awakes, he finds himself in a deranged world where hideous creatures wander amongst the dead, and he must embark on a frightening journey to unravel what's behind the evil force. So again, the idea of a game that makes you progress through the scary areas to get to the next thing. There are parts of this where you're chased down a hall with a chainsaw. It's full on carnival house horror. But I love it though.
Yeah,
it's great. There's actually one of my favorite. I'll say it real quick. There's a scene where you're falling. It's very cinematic. You're falling and you're falling down this dark void, and then all of a sudden the camera kind of tilts to where it becomes vertical instead of horizontal. And then as you're falling, your body actually starts hitting the wall, and you start rolling, and then you notice that your character was no longer falling down but falling to the side like he was rolling. So somewhere along the psychological way, your character ceased falling and instead was just rolling down a hallway. And so it's this idea of just wait, what the heck just happened? But yeah, it's awesome. Evil Within's my third pick. And we have about 2 minutes left, so we want to do what we can't put down this week. Eric, since you started us off with our list for today, Josh, start us off. What can't you put down this week? It's our weekly segment.
Well, as usual, I haven't had time for much but music, and so I would recommend the artist Mother and their album Oh My Heart. I've been listening to it on loop this week, and I quite enjoy it. I'm going to go through, I think they have about 6 albums, and I'm going to start listening to the rest of them, but they're kind of a Canadian indie rock band. Quite good. Recommend them.
Mother. I love, I never told you this, but I love that you have music as your choice. I love the idea of we're not just a film show. We're pop culture, so I think that's great. So Mother. All right. We'll check it out. Eric, what you got?
All right. I'm going to be the weeb coming in hot with Neon Genesis Evangelion. I just watched that whole show.
Okay.
Just finished it. It's amazing. It's a really good take on the mecha genre.
What was it again? Neon
Genesis Evangelion. It's one of the most controversial anime. Yeah.
I've seen the Netflix screen cap for it. So,
it's awesome.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Very cool. All right, we got about a minute left, so I'll do mine quickly. I started the show, I mentioned it earlier, Mindhunter, on Netflix. It's from David Fincher's executive producing, one of my favorite directors. It's a show about the 1970s. It's a true story about how 2 FBI detectives started interviewing murderers to see why they did what they did and tried to examine the idea of someone being crazy beyond just that they were born crazy. So it's a show that's about dealing with murderers, very David Fincher, very much like Zodiac, if you liked that movie. It was also by David Fincher. Beautiful to watch, but Mindhunter on Netflix just came out last week, and me and my girlfriend started watching it. We like it.
Awesome.
So I got about 30 seconds left, so we want to thank you guys so much for joining us again. You've been listening to Pop Culture Water Cooler. We're a weekly segment from 6 to 7 where we talk about everything pop culture. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at PopCultureWC as our handle, and also on our YouTube and our SoundCloud accounts at searching Pop Culture Water Cooler as well. If you guys have any suggestions or questions, feel free to reach out to us. And you've been listening to us on the kxou.ou.edu and the TuneIn app. You guys have a good week.
Bye.
Later.